Hello there. Today we're going to talk about this. And what is this, you might ask? This is the Heimplanet Monolith 22-liter Daypack. As the name suggests, it's a 22-liter Daypack that belongs to Heimplanet Monolith series of sort of outdoors travel-esque type bags. This bag is my current go-to choice as my always packed, ready to go one bag travel bag. So when the world is not in the midst of a global pandemic, I tend to travel quite a lot, both for work and also for personal pleasure. Sometimes I'm on a plane several times a month, actually, on international trips. And so I always keep a bag ready to go. And like a lot of one-bag travelers, I tend to pack more or less the same, whether for a trip of 1 day or a trip for 30 days. And this bag, as it's currently packed out, actually contains my baseline loadout. I've used this at least a dozen times in the past year. Obviously, not every trip that I take will be with this bag. On a larger trip, you're going to want a slightly larger bag. Sometimes if you're going to do something specialized like go hiking or whatever. But for most cases, this is actually the right kind of what I would consider Goldilocks bag. And by Goldilocks bag, I mean it's big enough for one bag travel, but it's still small enough that you can use this as your EDC kind of day bag when you arrive at the destination, meaning you don't need to pack a second kind of portable bag, which is usually kind of inferior to a proper bag. And this bag here at 22 liters is actually half the size of the maximum general capacity of a one bag travel type bag, which is usually around 40-45 liters. But that's part of why it's actually so usable as like a daily bag at your destination. It's actually quite light, which is an important thing. It's about 1,100 grams or 1.1 kilograms. I'm not sure what that is in pounds, maybe 2 pounds or so. It has a moderate level of organization, and it can do light crossover duties, by which I mean like you can even go light hiking with this besides using it as sort of an urban work bag or whatever at your destination. There's some major not major, but there are some downsides to the bag, of course, around the material, a little bit of the fit and finish, and sometimes this not so useful MOLLE system, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So who's this bag for? Well, as mentioned, this is really for one bag travelers looking for like the right Goldilocks type bag, or those who travel a lot on smaller intra-European budget airlines or whatever. This bag is going to do you really well if you pack well and you pack right. And especially if you hate bringing along a second bag like I do, this is going to be the right kind of bag for you to start considering. People who like the GoRuck aesthetic, but maybe you want a slightly more, I'll say, civilized or less tacti-cool look, this is also going to be a great bag for you to consider. So let's talk about who it's not for. It's probably not for people who are already close to the limits of a 40-45 liter one bag travel. Like this is half the size of it. You're going to have to cut down dramatically if you want to get in here. For myself, I'm quite an experienced one bag traveler, so I have no problems making it work in a bag like this size. People who bring the kitchen sink and all that, this is not going to work so well for them. Also, people who do things like GoRucking or participate in GoRuck events or whatever, there's some visual similarities between this and a GoRuck GR1, GR2 bag, but this is nowhere near as rugged or as tough as those kind of bags. And if you're really going to abuse the heck out of your bag, this might not be the right one for you. And finally, like on the opposite end of the spectrum, people who are looking for like a purpose-built EDC bag and actually don't do that much one bag travel, I don't know if this is going to be the right bag for you either, because there's like far better EDC choices out there. So let's talk about the external design of this bag here. And then we'll get into the pockets and all that stuff, right? So as mentioned, it's a 22-liter bag. It opens clamshell style. It's fairly boxy and rectangular, as you can see. Like this is packed out, as I mentioned, how I have it on standby, ready to grab and go. There is some gentle rounding. You can kind of see when I set down the bag here. There's like a gentle slope at the bottom here. And if you look at the top, there's a bit of rounding at the corners. So it's not completely boxy, but there is some shaping to it, which I think is interesting. It's available in a few different colorways. I obviously got the black one. They change according to the seasons and how Heimplanet feels. But there are some brighter colorways out there as well. The bag itself is made out of 840D ballistic nylon. So that's less substantial than the 1000D you tend to find on a lot of like the tougher bags out there, more rugged outdoorsy bags out there. But you do get a weight savings for that. For comparison, for example, this weighs 1,100 grams and a GoRuck GR1, depending on the size you get, can weigh up to like 1,500 grams. And that 400 gram weight savings may not sound like much. Actually, it does sound like a lot. But you have to consider, for example, a 12-inch Retina MacBook is only 900 grams. So that's half the weight of the laptop. Or it's the weight of like an iPad mini. Or actually, it's more than the weight of an iPad mini or like a small mirrorless camera. The bag has a large clamshell opening here, which we'll get into in a minute, with a two-way kind of zipper, and it's covered by a flap. The other kind of accessory zippers out here, there's one on the back and one on the side, and then one on the front, are YKK AquaGuard zippers. The main one is a reversed coil standard zipper, but it's covered by this flap for some degree of water resistance. The whole bag has, I think it's PU coated, so there's a small amount of water resistance. I wouldn't bring it out in a deluge, it's gonna get wet. On the front of the bag here, actually, there's, as I mentioned, there's this sort of single YKK zipper pocket, first order axis, which goes down about this far in my hand. This is really great for putting like earphones, chapstick, things that you need to access quickly but don't need to be so super secure here. And then beyond that, the front of the bag features this MOLLE webbing. And so there's a bit of MOLLE here, there's a bit of MOLLE on the side, and then some MOLLE on the inside, which we'll talk about in a second. And this is ostensibly for the attachment of like the different accessories that not GoRuck, that Heimplanet sells. This is, for example, I think they're a large pouch and it has MOLLE on the back, and you can kind of sort of put it in like this, and then there's smaller pouches, and honestly, they don't work that great. I'll talk about that in the things I like or dislike section here, but it is there, and of course, they'll take standard MOLLE, accessories. Then there's these two accessory straps that run across the front of the pack. I love these, actually, and at first, I didn't think I would use them very much. In practice, they've proven to be incredibly useful, and the most common use case for me was, I'd be wearing a jacket or a rain shell. Then I get into an airport, or I need to be running somewhere and I just need to vent a lot of heat. I don't need the jacket anymore, it's not raining anymore, whatever. So I can just run it through here, it draped over the top and secured with these two straps. And then you're free to just, go about your business without having to like stop and try and stuff it in an already full bag. But it's still like really easy to access it. And of course, if it's wet, it'll dry out or whatever. I use that so many times, especially in airports or whatever. I love these. If you don't like them, they actually will, come undone, and you can tuck them into these little hiding segments on each side here. Really like these two straps here, and I like that they're kind of dual colors here. It echoes the colors of the zippers that you find on the bag as well. And then there's let's see, two grab handles on the bag. Actually, three. I'm sorry. No, that's right. Sorry, two. There's one on the side, which you can use to grab the bag like this, like you're kind of setting it down, picking it up, or also carrying it briefcase style, which I'll talk about in a second. And then there's one on the top, which is just your standard kind of handle. So the most common use cases I found are, one, as I mentioned, setting down the bag on the side and then picking it up, or two, if you're going to put it in an overhead bin, one hand here, put it up there, bring it back down. This part, it lets you haul it out. It's really nice. There's a little strip of MOLLE at the bottom. I forgot to mention that as well here. Then I also like that they're relatively low profile. They're not super comfortable if you're going to be carrying them for long distances, but I think it's okay. So this one, I mentioned briefcase style briefly, and this bag is theoretically convertible. So there's actually these two kind of loop sections on the side here, and the bag comes with a strap. And the idea is you can kind of feed these G hooks in through the sides of each of these loops here, and then you're going to be able to bring it with you on your shoulder or whatever, kind of carrying it on your side, or use it as a briefcase. And it has this zipper pocket here, which I'll talk about in a second, that you can get in and out of the bag. In reality, I didn't use this, and also it's really hard and finicky to get these G hooks in and out. At least on my copy of it, you kind of softened up a bit, but it's actually really annoying to convert it, in my opinion anyway. It actually wasn't too bad this time around. But that's, one of the reasons why you have this kind of convertible, or these straps here, and this side zipper pocket, which lets you get into the main compartment and into your laptop. And then on the back, you have these shoulder straps. So I guess since we're talking about the convertibility, at the top of the bag, the straps will actually go into this top zippered compartment. And then the zips closed with these YKK zipper. Now, one of the challenges is like when you're wearing the bag, the compartment has to be open, and actually snow and water can get right into here. That sucks. It's happened to me a few times. And then the straps themselves, just hook or unhook with these simple G hooks straps, and then these will fit into the bottom of the bag. There's like little, places for you to tuck the straps away. If you're not using them, you're using it in the back, in the briefcase style. The back panel, we'll get back to straps here in a second. The back panel has this kind of really interesting turtle shell, geometric motif, which is a common theme in a lot of Heimplanet stuff. From their tents to their bags, they always have these really interesting geometric patterns. I like it. I dig it. And then these are the actual straps themselves. They're fairly comfortable up until around 7 to 10 kilograms. Above 10 kilograms, I found that they kind of start to wear on you. And that's just because they have a very simple attachment system here. Nothing fancy. The bag kind of tends to droop and hang heavily and pull back on your shoulders. So that's kind of why that limitation is there. They have this nice laddering system here, which I love because it allows you to attach a sternum strap. And a sternum strap does not come with this bag, and I do not believe that Heimplanet sells one separately for this one, but because of the way these are on here, they actually let you attach any kind of standard sternum strap to the bag. In this case, I have the Fjallraven Konken sternum strap that fits in there really nicely, but a generic one will also fit, and I like that. And then I forget if I mentioned, but there's these built-in strap keepers for a dangle-free experience, which is pretty cool. And then the last thing to mention about the bag's back, anyways, there's a so-so moderately stiff frame sheet with some padding, and then no air channels or anything like that, but it will kind of absorb a little bit of sweat as you're wearing it. And then I think I also briefly alluded to on the outside, there's a kind of side zipper sealed with a YKK AquaGuard zipper, and that is actually to let you get in and get your laptop in and out and access the main compartment. So that's sort of the overview of the outside of the bag here. And now what we'll do is we'll look at the inside. As I mentioned, this is actually loaded out how I have it on standby, ready to go. The only exception is I don't have my earphones in here because I use my chapsticks. I use those on my EDC use. So the bag lays flat, and it can open with this two-way zipper, and then it flops open completely in clamshell style. And this current loadout here is, like I said, one that I have ready to go on standby. Let's look at the front flap pockets first here. So on the inside of the front pocket, you have, or the front flap, you have two pockets, a larger kind of mesh one and then a more opaque one that's slightly smaller. These both have their own dimension. In particular, this bottom mesh one has a lot of space in there. And one of the things that I like about this bag in use is the material has a lot of stretch to it. So even when you think it's filled up, if you look at this bag actually looks pretty filled up, but I have a bunch of stuff in here. And when I close it, the bag actually easily swallows that up. You can sort of see there's some additional dimension to the front and shaping to the front of this pack. I like that. I like that sort of subtle shaping and dimension that comes into play when you actually start using the bag. I also find that it makes these internal front pockets quite useful. There's a fair amount of stuff in here, which I have kind of packed into here, and it just lays on top of this other stuff here, and it still kind of fills up the volume quite well, I think, without intruding on this main compartment. So flipping this open, I have in here a lot of the stuff that I need easy access to, but I don't want floating around the main compartment, like a spare battery, some power cables, toothbrush set, some masks. I used to carry these even before the pandemic, and now I definitely carry them. Notebook, receipts document kind of thing, and then some important documents that I always have blanked out here so you can't see. And that just fits. You just throw this in here and it can swallow up a ton more stuff. And then in the, you can see there's a ton more space in here, and it will actually take a lot more stuff in there. And then in the top pocket, I have, this Arc'teryx Valence passport holder with some cards, and then a pen and a simple felt kind of pen holder, and then there's a key loop inside of here. And this pocket can also take a bunch more stuff. And because there is a bit of subtle shaping or angling to the bottom of the bag, as you can kind of see, you get a bit of a triangle at the bottom, which I'll show you in a second. And then this main load goes up over it. And you saw the similar pattern with like the Rofemia Shift Daypack 2, which I reviewed a few weeks ago, where you have some space here and then you have more usable space up here when the bag is kind of vertically closed and vertically hanging. And then inside of the main compartment, we have a bunch of different things. So so this is my particular travel loadout. Obviously, if you don't carry some of these things, yours will be different. I always carry a camera with me. This is a Sony a6600 with a lens on there, and like an 18-55 or something like that. And then I carry 3 primes here. I have and these are Mystery Ranch Zoid bags. I have like a cable, electronics cable bag, pretty simple here. And then an extra kind of Matador tote bag, because this bag will take some more stuff, but it's not going to absorb everything, or it's not going to swallow everything. So sometimes you do buy some stuff and you want like an extra bag on the way back. And then here is like a North Face glam pouch with like some cabling for the car or whatever, stereo, lightning cable, stuff like that. And then at the bottom, tucked in this little bit at the bottom, I have a DOP kit just kind of all thrown together inside of a Mystery Ranch the way pouch. And then we have a single air packing cube with my clothes, my pajamas, and all that stuff. Underwear, socks, crap like that. Hair iron, because you gotta look good, or it don't matter. I'm just kidding. And then an air, shoe pouch, which has running shoes and then exercise clothes in here. And again, this is something where if you don't bring running shoes, like you can save on the weight and bulk of this, and this bag will take even more. If you don't want to bring 4 lenses and a camera, you can also save a lot more space, or you can have a bigger DOP kit or whatever. And so like, I think for somebody who might not bring, exercise clothes and like lenses, like this is, without even trying, how much, extra space I think you could realistically have in this bag. And that's a ton of extra space here without all that stuff. We're gonna take this back out here for a second. And if we look at this bag again, you're gonna see the inside of the bag is just this main compartment is just a big open space. Now, because of the floppiness of the material, it doesn't really like stand up on its own. There's no padding in the sidewalls. But once you start putting things in, it loads fairly easily. You're gonna notice there's MOLLE kind of webbing on the inside. And again, that's for the attachment of things like their accessory pockets. Now, the way it's oriented, it's like this. Now, the way this MOLLE pocketing or strapping is attached is kind of to try and accommodate, I think, the use case as both a brief style here, where you're accessing from here, or as a backpack where it's up here. But in reality, I kind of find it's just weird. It doesn't work that well. And you always end up with these weird dead zones or dead spots, no matter how you kind of put it. This is the largest one I could find to try and like maximize the usage out of that. It's still just kind of, it's not that great. I don't like it. At least it's not very intrusive. And then as mentioned, here's the laptop area. It sort of has a false bottom. You can see here, there's a bit of like space where the laptop ends and then the bottom of the bag, and that's true down here as well. It's held in place with a zipper, with a Velcro strap, not a zipper, obviously. And then you can put the laptop in and out like that. Usually though, you're gonna be accessing the laptop from the top, like this. It'll take a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I have a 13-inch in there. The only caveat is this zipper can be a little bit fussy, especially if you have like a 15-inch laptop in there. Sometimes you have to angle it to get it in there and whatnot. So let's go ahead and load this back up really quickly here. And then I'll talk about some of the things I like and don't like about this bag. Actually, maybe we won't load it all the way up. Just load it up enough to give it some shape. So the things that I like about this bag are, one, I love the versatility of the bag. I've already sort of mentioned, this is my, my always packed, ready to go EDC bag. EDC one bag travel bag, because it does double duty, because it looks good enough to use in a city, urban environment. It'll handle light crossover duties. It's big enough and functional enough to do one bag travel. It's light enough that it doesn't consume a lot of your precious, like limited weight limits when you're traveling on the smaller airlines. And I like that it's got a nice kind of cool aesthetic without being too futuristic, without being too tactical or whatever. I really like it has external, access here. I like these straps a lot, and I like the fact that these sternum straps have, you know, so that these backpack straps have some options to add a sternum strap even if they're not sold separately. And I kind of like that, you know, it has just this general kind of, you know, very well thought out details like these handles or whatever. What I don't like so much about this bag is the material, and that's sort of a trade-off, right? Because on the one hand, you definitely want to get, you know, that weight savings, and you do want some of the stretch that comes with this material. I really like that as well. I forgot to mention that one of the things I like is how much it can just swallow up. It's amazing. It's a 22-liter bag. You can just take a bunch of stuff in there. But you know, that material, it's not the best in the world, and it's fine for me. It's certainly held up well for this past year, but still it's an area where you kind of can definitely feel the difference when you look at something like a GoRuck or like even an Evergoods type bag or whatever. Second thing I don't necessarily like about it is sort of the fit and finish. In some areas, these straps for the shoulder strap have loosened up over time, but in the beginning it was almost impossible to get the G-hook into one of them. And then there were some loose threads. I cut most of them off here and there. I think it's also part of just the product of the material choices. This just tends to wear and scuff a little bit more over time. And then also the other things I don't like so much about it is like, I mean, the MOLLE is useless. As I mentioned, it just, no matter how you attach a pouch or whatever, it sort of just flops around, and that's partially a result of, you know, how the MOLLE is designed. Like if you look at this, this still has like these two big areas where there's overhang, and so they just flop because there's no strapping there. Or also the material, right? Which is if you hang weight off of this, because it's such a flimsy material, or not flimsy, but light material, it just droops and swings independently of its weight. And then also just the overall design, like there's no, you know, good way, even with the smaller ones, to attach it in a way that it doesn't look like it's just hanging off the side. So that's not that great. And I guess the last thing I don't necessarily like is I feel like the convertibility aspect really wasn't needed. And they made some design choices as a result of trying to accommodate this functionality. Like for example, the weird internal pocketing of the MOLLE, the fact that the backpack straps needs to stow into here, and so that always leaves this hole open for rain or snow to collect in, that I think were, you know, maybe the bag could have been a little bit more resolved if they hadn't tried to accommodate that. But that's really it for what I dislike about the bag. Overall, like I'm super positive on it. As I mentioned, it's my current go-to bag. Now, if you're in the market for a bag like this, there are some other bags that you might want to consider. When I say a bag like this, I really mean a Goldilocks type one bag travel, but can also be your EDC local use bag when you arrive. There's a couple of bags that should be right away on your list here. The first one, I guess, is the Bellroy Transit Pack. And this is the smaller one. Bellroy's just created a new, or released a new larger one. This is, I think, 30 liters or 28 liters, something like that, somewhere around that. And this bag is amazing. It's awesome. I love it a lot. It's definitely like more travel baggy than that one. And you can sort of see in the way it's designed. It has more organization. Definitely more pocketing, more internal stuff. The inside's got a little bit more going on. You know, lots of little here, but still eminently usable as an EDC bag at your destination. And if we were to compare the sizes of these bags here, again, roughly, it's hard to see if I can get them on camera. They're roughly the same size, although I think that they're roughly the same size actually. In just shaped slightly differently. I think you gain a more refined fit and finish on this one. It looks more, I guess, like travel baggy, as I mentioned. You lose, I don't know if you lose, but the straps are not as good. Well, I don't know, they're both not that great. The straps are different. They're very thin on this one. And you gain a lot more organization, I think. So that's one bag that I would definitely consider, and I've often use this one in the same situation as I use that one. Another bag that you would want to consider, very obviously, is going to be the GoRuck GR1. This is a new one actually of mine. I have a black one that I used to use, and then I ended up giving that one away because I wanted a gray bag. So this one actually hasn't been used, but I have used them in the past. The GoRuck GR1 is very obviously like an inspiration for this bag. You can kind of see it in just the overall style. Even the 21 liter is larger than, you can sort of see here, than the 22 liter Heimplanet. It's a heavier bag. It's a much more robust bag in terms of the construction. You gain, I guess, a better build quality. You gain, quote unquote, a better size, a bigger size, I should say, even for the 21 liter. And you know, again, you can see sort of the inspiration here in how this bag inspired this. You gain a stiffer frame sheet and an external separate laptop carry compartment. You lose, or maybe you gain weight, which is actually maybe a negative, usually. The front pocket is larger, but not as usable. And I would say it's a little bit more of a tactical kind of looking bag, which may not be the vibe you're looking for. I would say if you're torn between these two bags, unless you plan on going extensively GoRucking or you abuse the heck out of your gear, or you carry a ton of stuff and you really don't think you can fit in here, I would almost certainly say like go for this bag for most use over this one. It's lighter, it's more comfortable, at least in the beginning, and I would say even after broken in, because the other one was even after broken in, I still found this one more comfortable. And it just kind of, I just feel like it's more versatile than this one. And this one's also heavier, as mentioned. If you're looking to go even more towards the one bag travel and less towards the local use EDC, you could consider something like this. This is the Topo Designs travel bag. It's also can theoretically be used as a EDC / one bag travel. In reality, I find like the shaping, this is the smaller one. They have a larger one as well, which is like 40 liters or so. In reality, I found that this one is a little, I mean, it's a little, you can already see it's a bigger bag. Let's see if we can get them lined up here. It's a bigger bag, it's a squarer bag, but it's also a narrower bag. And so it tends to wear like physically very tall, vertically very tall on the back. This, I guess like the, you know, this one also does a convertible thing where you can slip it into here and then there's a way to attach shoulder straps on the side here. I think you gain slightly more compartmentalization, right? There's this internal compartment with two internal pockets on the flap, but then you have another front pocket which has some organization and another flap in here, another pocket in here. You got like another front pocket in here which have pockets in here, so you gain more organization for sure. You also gain like a luggage pass-through, and you also gain a separate laptop compartment for sure, so I guess that's what you gain. And like I said, there's also briefcase mode on this one with load lifters. What you lose, I think, is just sort of the simplicity and overall, because it's divided up into, the volume is divided up into different compartments and it's a flatter, thinner bag. Like you're not gonna be able to pack as much into this one as easily as you can with this one, especially if you're doing packing cubes. This one's gonna be a better experience for you. Also, it's not quite as EDC local usable, I think, as this one, in my opinion. If you wanted to just forego, if you like the aesthetic of this, or you like the clamshell, but you don't even want to do one bag travel, you just like that, I would suggest that in this case, again, this is not really for one bag travel anymore. I could technically do it, but it would be extremely hard because it's a very narrow bag. To get like what I consider the best clamshell bag ever made, possibly. This is the Evergood CPL 24 Civic Panel Loader 24. It is a clamshell bag. I have a couple of these. This one is the gray one that I have obviously used very well. Huge clamshell opening, laptop, or some sort of tablet storage here, separate laptop container actually on the outside, excuse me. Front pocket, organization, keychain, dual pockets again here. Much thinner, I guess, like not as deep of a bag, but definitely superior build quality in every single way. Superior carrying ability with that kind of famous Evergood's yoke system. Available in a couple of different colors. If you don't want to do the one bag travel, but you just like the clamshell aesthetic, this is another bag you might want to consider. And so really, that is it when it comes to this bag here. So, you know, to summarize it, like, I think the fact that I've chosen this one to be my always packed and ready to go one bag travel bag speaks volumes to how much I like it. Of course, there are things that are, you know, compromises about it. But overall, it's probably the best combination of all those different attributes that I look for in a true one bag travel / EDC bag to date. And I really would recommend that if you're in the market for a bag like that, you check it out. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. Thanks. Bye.